Hey everyone, I've been seeing this FoxAlien XE-PRO CNC router popping up all over the maker forums lately, and after spending a solid weekend running test cuts on a few different materials, I think I've got a pretty good feel for what it can do. If you've been on the fence about stepping up from a basic desktop engraver to something that can handle aluminum and hardwood without bogging down, this might be the machine you've been waiting for. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the XE-PRO runs on NEMA 23 closed-loop steppers. That means no skipped steps even when you're hogging out a quarter-inch pass in 6061 aluminum, which is exactly what I did to test rigidity. The ball screw drive on all three axes is a game-changer compared to the ACME screws you see on most entry-level machines, zero backlash, and the gantry glides so smoothly that I could run the same file twice in a row and get identical parts. I ran a simple 2D pocket in 1/2 inch walnut at 18,000 revolutions per minute and 60 IPM, and the finish looked like it came off a $5,000 machine. Another thing that surprised me was how straightforward the assembly was. FoxAlien ships the frame in one box, the gantry in another, and the wiring harness is already labeled. I had it bolted to my wasteboard and trammed in the spindle in about an hour, no Allen keys flying everywhere like some other kits I've wrestled with. The control box is plug and play with the included 400W spindle, and the touchscreen pendant is actually intuitive. I didn't have to dig through a manual to jog the Z-axis 0. One of the features that really stands out is the upgradable spindle mount. The stock 400W ER11 spindle handles wood, plastics, and light aluminum just fine, but FoxAlien gives you a second mount plate and a reinforced bracket so you can bolt in a 800W or even a 1.5 kilowatt spindle later if you start cutting steel or titanium. I swapped in a 65mm 800W unit I had lying around and ran a 3D profiling job in a 1/4 inch brass without any chatter, something my old 400W couldn't touch. The work area is 12 by 12 inches, which is plenty for most hobby projects, but the neat part is the T-slot bed that accepts standard 20mm tooling. I used some 3D printed clamps to hold down a small aluminum billet, and the wasteboard stayed flat the whole time. I also appreciate that the machine ships with a 24,000 revolutions per minute spindle, not the usual 12,000 revolutions per minute you see on budget routers. That extra speed let me run a 0.020 inch depth pass in soft maple without burning, which saved me a sanding step. Noise levels are reasonable too. At full 400W load the spindle is louder than a dual router, but it's not the jet engine scream you get from some Chinese spindles. I ran it in my garage with the door closed and my neighbors didn't complain, which is more than I can say for the last machine I tested. On the downside, the stock ER11 collet only goes up to 7mm, so if you're planning to run 1/2 inch end mills you'll need to buy a separate ER20 collet nut and collets. Also, the power supply is external and a little bulky, so make sure you have the shelf space for it. It's not a deal breaker, but it's worth measuring before you order. Overall, the FoxAlien XE-PRO feels like a pro-level machine without the pro-level price tag. If you're serious about woodworking, prototyping, or light metal work and you want something that will grow with you, this is a solid pick. Check the link below if you want to see the current price and any bundle deals. For most buyers, the real question is not whether FoxAlien CNC router machine XE-PRO with ball screws, 400W spindle 3-axis engraving milling machine for wood aluminum cutting upgradable to linear rails sounds impressive on paper, but whether strengths like NEMA 23 closed-loop stepper motors and ball screw-driven system actually make daily use feel easier, more dependable, and more worthwhile after the first few days of excitement wear off. It is also smart to think about long-term satisfaction. A product like FoxAlien CNC router machine XE-PRO with ball screws, 400W spindle 3-axis engraving milling machine for wood aluminum cutting upgradable to linear rails usually feels like the better buy when it stays convenient, comfortable, and reliable in normal everyday use instead of only looking good in the listing.